Welcome to the Wigan Cult Film Club podcast.
Oh, everybody, we are back once again. How's everyone doing? I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel. It's myself, Tony, and Dave with you once again. Hello. On this fine episode, we are going to start doing some recommendations. So, As you know, me and Dave watch some absolute biz between us. And I think a lot of other members of the club watch some absolute biz as well. So it's good talking about biz. So we are going to talk about some films.
Biz is life.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah, I mean, these films you've probably heard of, maybe, but probably never seen, and they are worth giving you time up to watching them. I think with this will be a nice little running feature from us now on going forward, doing a couple of recommendations.
We thought about this because we were coming home from film club the other night, and a lot of like the suggestions for the films to put on come from Tony's library, basically. You know, you see Resplendent behind him there, and I like a fool gave away a lot of my DVD collection a while back, mainly because it was so stupidly big and there was so much 20p crap in there that I didn't have enough room for it and my comics, so I had to make one had to give really. So I kept a good selection of stuff that I know it's going to be a bit more difficult to find, and I just gave them away. Turns out a nice fella who's he does some of the voiceover stuff for the Thing documentaries whenever he can. He's a massive Carpenter fan and he lives up in Manchester. He ended up taking them off me and giving me a few quid, which was nice of him. But
that's cool.
But in terms of like recommendation, we were in the car the other night and I just thought, like, in conversation, a few things come up that I suggested, you know, Tony to watch, and I was surprised he'd never heard of a couple of them. But it just got me thinking, like, well, we should have a little section, you know, because there's loads of stuff he drags out that I've never heard of, and I think, oh, I fancy that. You know, there might be stuff that other club members have like said, like, can we put this on? And I think, yeah, I've never seen it. So I thought, well, why don't we start digging around what we've got? And I've looked. So with me being down here in London still, I've nicked a couple off Mike's shelf, and Tony's spun around and grabbed a couple off his shelf as well. So we're just gonna blurt on about them for a bit. So you going first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Like I said, most people that know me and have been coming to this channel for years and years know that I'm a massive whore when it comes to the fantasy genre. It is probably my favourite genre. Yeah, film slang. It is probably my favourite genre of film. I've always loved it from a kid, still love it now. I like the overall cheesiness and crap quality to all this kind of stuff. And everybody's heard of your Conans and your Willows and stuff like that. But I thought we'd have a look at a couple of little obscure ones. First one we'll have a look at is by the master Lucio Fulci. Again, everybody knows Fulci films, but this is probably one that a lot of people have never come across, and it is a fantasy film that he decided to do called Conquest. Conquest was his sort of toe dip into the water of the fantasy genre, sword and sorcery kind of genre back in the day. It's the only one he ever did. It never really did that well for him. But take that nothing away from it, the film's actually really good. The only way I can explain to you the way the film is shot, it's a cross between an LSD acid trip and a fever dream. It's bizarre. The story rolls on quite weirdly. The way it's filmed looks like it's had a blue filter put over the top of it in certain scenes, or a purple filter put over the top of it in certain scenes, because everything gets saturated with colour, and it's got this real hazy look about it, like someone smeared Vaseline all over a lens. It's like and this is
moonlighting.
Yeah, exactly. And this has been remastered as well as at 1080p, and it still looks like shit.
It was a thing though at the time, wasn't it? Just messing about with filters and all that kind of stuff. All the trippy bits in Easy Rider and Bowie videos and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And this sort of sums it up. I think it's 83, this film. I always get confused with what year it is. but it's one of them films. If you're into Lucio Fulci stuff, the chances are this one may have slipped you by, because he was so synonymous with the horror genre, and then he sort of got into the sort of, I don't really know what you would call it. It was sort of like Italian sort of like cop drama kind of films. He did a hell of a lot of those as well. But this was his only attempt at a sort of a fantasy film. But he sort of, it works for him. I don't know why he never went back to it. But the whole premise of the film, again, there's an evil presence, an evil being, and our hero has to try and stop it. You can't really see it on the back, but his weapon of choice is a magic bow. So if you know the bow that Ranger has in Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon, it's the exact rip of that. It's the same premise, that he just holds the general bow, and as he strikes it back, the arrow and the string is formed, and it's sort of like lets rip it's like a laser blast
made out of
that. It's really, really good. It's quite short as well. It's only 88 minutes long. If you've never seen it, and again, for if you're a fantasy fan or a Lucio Fulci fan, give it a bit of time, give it a watch. It'll be one that you may put into your favourites catalogue, or you may just go, do you know what? I've watched it once now. I'm done with it. But it's definitely worth a pick up and a watch if you've never seen it before. Just for the simple fact it's by the master himself.
Bit of conquest.
Yeah, it's great. It is really good. It's a fun time, and again, it's not one that crops up on lists that often of fantasy films. You know what I mean? All the usuals always pop up. Your Beastmasters, you know what I mean, and all your Conan films and your Aetors, they crop up all the time. But for some reason, Conquest never does, and it's actually really good.
It could be. It's probably one of the only ones where they haven't gone nuts on the cover. You know, where like because there's a load of films in there where the cover promises some fantasy ones in particular. The cover promises
100%,
and it's like buying a tape on Commodore 64. You think, that looks ace. Can't wait, get that on.
What's this? Yeah. Those budget titles just been murdered for it.
Yeah, but I mean, if as we know from like the culture of the 80s video shop, a poster can sell everything. The amount of biz we used to hire out of the shop because the poster was absolutely banging. I mean, have you seen Eliminators? It's like, nothing could ever be as good as that poster. That's just unbelievable. Yeah. So shall I do one anyway?
Yeah, man, go for it. You do one.
So because I haven't got many and I'm in someone else's house, I've just nicked a couple off Mike's shelf, which are favourites of mine, and I just thought I'd give you them. Now, the first one's Source Code. Duncan Jones's
great little
sci-fi one-off, lovely little film. I know that he made Moon and he made Warcraft, and I quite like Warcraft actually.
I like Warcraft.
Yeah. He made Moon, and a lot of people like Moon as the better film from that director. I understand why. The only thing I've got with it is it's a genre of film, the guy deteriorating, like illness-wise.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few things that makes me go, like, and the fact that he's just getting iller and iller and falling to bits, and it just made me go, it's like, there's a short story in a Clive Barker Books of Blood about these guys who uncover some artifact, and it basically makes them rot. And some fella's like, he's falling to bits, and he gets that angry and punches the table, and the description of his hand coming apart, I was like, it's just that thing of people just falling to bits. Anyway, I think Moon's brilliant, but I think Source Code is the prime entertainer of his catalogue of stuff that he's made, and also it's a weird one that it comes on a lot. It's on telly a lot. It is a lot, but there's still plenty of people who haven't heard of Source Code, and it's a great little. I love ones like this and the type of stuff that what it reminds me of. It reminds me of who's the fellow who made the most recent Roadhouse remake. Doug Liman, right?
Oh,
It reminds me of the choices that Doug Liman makes for films, because he does your big blockbustery Mr. Mrs. Jones or whatever it was, the one with Brad Pitt. But then he'll go off and do Live, Die, Repeat, or that type of thing. And the Firstborn Identity, I think, was Doug Liman.
Yeah.
It just got an eye for like great little one-off stories, and I think Tom Cruise does it well as well when it comes to sci-fi things like Oblivion and
Very much so.
Live, Die, Repeat, and stuff like that. And I think this sits alongside them. It's well contained. It's a great little beginning, middle, and end sci-fi story about a guy who keeps waking up on a train, and he lives those however long it is minutes on that train again and again with a purpose. So I'm not spoiling out with it, but it's a really clever. It's like when you got a Groundhog Day turned up, and somebody is using that repetition to do something. First of all, he's got to figure out where he is, what's going on. Secondly, he's got to figure out what he's got to do, and then it skews into something else a bit more sci-fi, and it ends up in a place where you think, flip, that's like a nice little Isaac Asimov one-off story. That it's a great little like sci-fi idea that I'd not seen done that way before. And it's a genre that people have played with for ages, not just repetition, but is it time travel, is it not? Why is somebody seeing something again and again and again? But this one's done, first of all, it's done cinematically well, and secondly, it's a blockbuster. Why it wasn't bigger, I'll never know.
It's modern sci-fi, isn't it? I think a lot of the general public have a problem with modern sci-fi. It's just not a genre that people just sort of lean towards anymore. And I don't know why, because like you say, you mentioned Live, Die, Repeat or Edge of Tomorrow. That it's a brilliant film. Like Tom Cruise is fantastic in it.
Do you know what someone said to me once about Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat? They said, it's rubbish, that. I said, it's not. It's absolutely brilliant. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's really well written.
He said it's rubbish. It's like a computer game. It's just a computer game. And I get what he's talking about, but maybe it's a commentary on how a computer game works, because it's still a film. It's not. It doesn't work like a computer game. You know what I mean? So it's a commentary on how people understand storytelling, and this fits into that category again. Again, Doug Liman and Duncan Jones. I think they both know what they're on about when it comes to games, because you only have to look at how he treated the Warcraft story. You could see he understood the game. You could see
massively
like what was enticing about the game, why the storytelling was good in the game, and he's done it with this. Yeah, it's got elements of gaming in it, like repetition and like what how do you level up? How do you build on what you did in the last go you had? So maybe it is a commentary on like how people get their entertainment now, because I'm sick of explaining to people that games are a form of entertainment. It's why would you have to? It's like the 1980s when they said it's going to rot everyone's brain, and it's still here and it's still dead good, and kids enjoy it. So get lost, And
they're still saying the same things about it today, though.
They're still saying the same things about it today. Yeah. Because you've shot someone in a game, you are a murderer, and you'll probably go and do it in the streets. Well, if that was the case, I'd be murdering all day long. Gaming's ace. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, I'm banging on a lot. So if you have seen it, you'll probably get what I'm on about. But if you haven't seen it, it's well worth seeking out Source Code.
It is.
It's a cracking little sci-fi film, and I wish it was bigger than it was. Yeah,
it deserved to be bigger than it was.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So my second pick is another fantasy film. I can't actually remember where I first saw this, but it was a streaming service. It was either Netflix or Shudder. I can't think. It was one of those services that this came to, and I think at the time it was exclusive. It was an exclusive release on a streaming service, and I'm almost sure it was one of the two. It was either Netflix or it was Shudder. And I remember just sitting down, having never heard anything about it before, putting it on and thinking, what have I just watched? That was amazing. And it's a little unknown film Those that know it love it, but I would suggest that the sort of fan base for this is quite small because a lot of people have never heard of it. It's a film called The Headhunter. I think this is 2018. I think it's 2018. Again, drop a comment if it's wrong, but I'm sure it's from 2018. Basically, the whole film is set around one guy, one actor, one character, and you get very, very little dialogue. The only dialogue that you really get is played as sort of like a prequel montage kind of thing that's going on in the background while he's doing his day-to-day thing. But basically, he is a monster hunter for the realm. So when any monsters come into the realm of where he lives, the king calls for him. He puts on his battle armor. He goes out and sorts the monsters out. Now, what you don't actually see is him battling any monsters. What you don't see is him sort of dealing with any situation that's given to him. But what you do see is him preparing for the battle and the end consequence of that battle. And what he's doing when he's killing these monsters, he's been given a purse by the kingdom. The more severe the monster, the bigger the purse. But you sort of find out a little bit of a backstory for him. The reason he's done this, he's lost his wife and his daughter to one particular monster, and that monster he's never been able to kill. And it just eludes him, and he never sees the monster again once it's killed his daughter and his wife. But his whole purpose in life is just to keep the realm clear of these monsters. But when he kills these monsters, he's making a specific elixir out of them. And the elixir he's making out of these monsters is prolonging his life. And if he gets any sort of like cuts or any damages to himself, it's healing him as well as. But he's taking his toll. Him hunting these monsters, he's taking his toll on him all the time. Yeah. So the story's bouncing along like that, and like aesthetically, it looks amazing because really you all ever see his hut, but it's fantastic the way it looks. Yeah. The armor that was put together by the props master for this film is second to none. It should have been in a big budget film. It's phenomenal. And the props for sort of when he kills a monster, he cuts its head off and he brings the head back with him as a trophy. And the heads are all sort of like mounting on the wall and he's hut behind him. Whoever's been making those, it's fantastic work as well. And all the story sort of like builds up right to the end where he's called to arms and he's not really recovered and he's not really sort of got himself sorted again. And when he gets to sort of the final monster, it's the monster that's been eluded him, but he's not really up for it. He's fucked from the previous battle, and it's how he deals with all that. It's actually really, really good. Do
you know, you mentioned like you can't remember where you watched it. I've got a feeling that ties in with my second choice as well, as a film that was getting really good word of mouth on horror sites. Right. I remember reading about Headhunter and this one as well. On things like Bloody Disgusting and things like that. Yeah. You know, the sites where they'll say, "Oh, we've got this film coming up," and they won't just talk about the film; they'll talk about why horror fans are going to enjoy it. And I seem to remember seeing that and the armor from that loads before it came out. So it's probable it went on Shudder or something. I would imagine. But, I don't think it actually says on the back where they got the rights to put it onto Finger. I think it was making appearances in like film festivals and stuff like that.
Right. It feels very much like that kind of film. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if someone's come along and said like, "Oh, we'll pick that up. We'll do something with that," probably more likely than not might have been Shudder. But yeah, I definitely remember hearing about it a lot because of the film circuit, because of the film festival circuit, and just really positive press around it.
Yeah, you know. So when normally films are like this that go to those kind of streaming services and predominantly end up getting lost on said streaming service. When 101 picked this up to put it on a disc, I was like, fucking hell, no way. Like, that's really good that they picked the title up. But they didn't just release the film. They've actually gone back to the people that directed it and produced it and wrote it. And they've actually thrown some special features on it, which aren't available on the streaming service. hence why physical media will always be king, because you never
always
get
win.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on here, there's a making of Headhunter. There's a commentary with the director and the producer and the writer of it. And there's another one called Why We Made Headhunter, the making of featurette. So there's loads of stuff on this, and it can be picked up. I think 101 sales currently on. It's like £8, I think,
Right.
on 101 site this at the moment. But if you've never seen it, if you've never heard of the film, it is definitely worth your time. It is really, really good. And like I said, don't be put off that it's just one guy in a hut. You know what I mean? And there ain't much acting in it. What you're actually getting, the story that's being told without actually any dialogue, is phenomenally good. And the way it looks, the aesthetics of it will blow your mind for a low budget film. I think it's about how long is it? 72 minutes long it is. So it's not a too long film, you know what I mean? But for a low budget film, 72 minutes.
It
is really good
on a Sunday, isn't it?
yeah, omnibuzzing. You know what I mean? So yeah, Headhunter, definitely check that out. It's really, really good.
Excellent, top stuff. Right, I'll bang on about this one. So I was talking about websites like Bloody Disgusting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I get really excited by films where they talk about a creature design being something you haven't seen before, right?
Yeah.
Recently, it was like some reviewers on Twitter and stuff were talking about Arcadian, the Nicolas Cage one. We'll talk about that another time, because that deserves about an hour on its own. But they were right. They were saying, like, film's all right, creatures are brilliant, right? So I was dying to see it then, and what I really like is not being able to find out what stuff looks like before I go. Right. I think that's the pinnacle of monster films, right? So even whether you liked it or not, Cloverfield did a good job of not showing anybody the monster until you were in that cinema.
Yeah.
Arcadian did it as well. As much as some people on YouTube were putting little idiot thumbnails on that looked like it was the monster from Arcadian, they weren't. And when you finally saw it, you're like, what the fuck? You know, I like that. I like the fact that you can still have that mystery about, like, specifically about monster films, right? So what year was this, right? So oh god, I haven't got my specs on. Many years back. It must have been ages back, because I was working in Manchester at the time, and I remember watching progress of this film being made on Bloody Disgusting and a few other like horror sites. And being dead excited to see the creature and to see what the hell was going on in it. So I booked the day off. I booked the afternoon off from work, and they said, "What have you booked the afternoon off for?" I said, "I want to go to the pictures. I want to go to the corner house in Manchester on my own with 2 Snickers and a bottle of pop, and I want to watch a film on my own, because I've been dying to see this creature film, and I'm really looking forward to it." So they were like dead excited for me then. You know, my workmates were like, "Okay, yeah, you can have the afternoon." So I went, and I had a brilliant afternoon. And the film I watched was The Host.
Yes, brilliant film.
And it's just magnificent. It's I'm going to go all through this now, and I'm going to be utterly wrong with like all the names and everything else. But it's Bong Joon-ho, Memories of Murder. Am I right in thinking Bong Joon-ho is he of Parasite?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and many other like cracking films as well.
Yeah.
So he put this one out in some year. I don't know.
I can't think
a
of
while back.
Yeah,
it was a year a while back.
Early-ish 2000s.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah. So it's it plays like a creature feature, right? And what I'm very glad of is hearing rumors that it was going to get remade for America. And then it not being remade. Why?
Because it didn't need it. Yeah.
Why would you remake a film that works, right?
Yeah.
And just as Bong Joon-ho does in other things, I think did he do the one on one about the big pig thing on Netflix? Was it Odka or something like that, or Odka?
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that one.
I think he had something to do with that. Anyway, so it's about it starts and it explains like, oh, we chucked a load of chemicals in this river in Korea, like somewhere. And what's happened was it's all gone in a big mad fish, and then it's come out and it's gone bananas. In the first 5 minutes, the creature comes out in full daylight out of this river and just splatters loads of people, right? and you're like, where does it go from here? Where's all the build up? Where's the sort of like the whole thing until you see the shark at the end of Jaws? Where's the tension and stuff like that? And what you realize is he's not telling the story of here comes the monster, let's get excited about the monster. He's talking about the effects it has on people and what goes on. Now, a lot of the posters give away the idea, but it's basically centered around a guy. Once again, I'm going to absolutely massacre his name because I probably can't even see where it is. No, but it's the guy who's in Parasite as well, the lead actor who plays the dad in Parasite. He plays a young dad in this, and his family run a little snack stall at the side of the river. So this thing comes out the water, starts lolloping around, just standing on people and just smashing people to bits. And it nicks his daughter. As it's being chased off by all these people back into the river, it whips round and grabs his daughter and takes her. And the film becomes about this layabout knobhead of a dad who doesn't do anything right, and he's just lazily going through life, having enough nuts to go and get it back. And he gets help from, I think it's his dad, and his sister is I think she's an Olympic archer or something, which is dead mad. An Olympic archer who waits too long to fire arrows. What the flipping heck? Right. How good is that? Right. Because if America remakes that, we'll have to make a dead good. We'll have to make a really good, and we'll make action sequences out of that. And you think America's got its place, Hollywood has got its place when it comes to films. But this film didn't seem to be made for those reasons. It didn't seem to be made for the reasons that you would watch The Relic or whatever else. Good monster films, but this is just different. And all the way through, you're thinking like, I don't like the guy who's going after his daughter. I want someone better to go after her. And yet you're with him. That's who you've got. You're stuck with him. And the director does a really good job of showing how you're supposed to act in these terrible scenarios where an accident has occurred, and how this fella has chosen to react, and how he's forced to because it's his daughter. He hasn't really got much choice. So it's not a standard monster film because you see the thing straight away, and you still don't know what you're looking at because it's absolutely bananas what you're looking at.
It's berserk in it.
It's a crazy creature design, but then that the story is about he's going to get that kid back, and it goes in places you don't expect it to be going in. And certainly with the ending as well, you think, right, Jesus, right, is that what we're getting? And full well if you had Will Smith as the dad, it would not have worked.
It just wouldn't work.
Hollywood would have this big ending with it tied up with a bow. Let's figure it all out. And he hasn't done that. This director, he hasn't done that at all. But it is a case of it absolutely slots into that category of films I was desperate to see because I had no idea what the monster was going to be. And when you finally get it, you think, you're right, I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen not just the monster, but I haven't seen someone do that with a monster flick before. Right, and it's well worth digging out. It's probably streaming somewhere, but if not, have a look for The Host because it's a banger.
It's one of those Blu-rays now that you can get really, really cheap secondhand. It's like a couple of quid. It's if you are a collector of monster films, it's got to be in there. You've got to put it in. Because it is really good. I mean,
it's not only good because it's a great story and we don't get stories like that, but it's a good representation of like other countries are churning out the brilliant stuff like this all the time, and we don't always get access to it over here. There's good and there's bad. There was one recently. What was that one? Have you ever seen The Lake? About a massive monster in a lake.
No.
Some of the effects are brilliant. Some of the effects are bobbins. So it's like it's a total mix. But again, it was another one that came along. You think, oh, I want to see that. Look at that monster there in that little clip. Let's have a bit of that. And like I say, some of it looks great. Some of it looks biz. But it's being made. It's out there being made. And I think, wow. For the sake of subtitles, why would you want to remake something that looks that unique and
exactly
that different from what you know a monster film is? If you want English and American made monster films, there's 10 billion of them on Amazon, and
there's loads.
9,999,000,000 of them. A biz, right? But when you get something with a sniffer quality to it, you know, it should be seen a lot more, and the host certainly does that. So highly recommended. Give that one a sniff.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember that being one of the films that you recommended to me. I hadn't heard of it at the time, and you was telling me about it and telling me about it. And I know you'd seen it. So from your recommendation, I watched it and I was like, "Oh yes, this is fucking brilliant." Yeah,
I love that.
It's really really good.
Mike,
Again, that you go on.
No, I was going to say Mike, whose house I'm staying in at the minute, he's brilliant at just seeing what the rest of the world's doing and just saying, have a try of this, you know, see what you think this one's like. And it's stuff that not only would I not have found myself, but I wouldn't even know to look for. You know, he's on a real Korean kick at the minute. You know, he's all his Netflix stuff is all Korean, like dramas and films and series and stuff like that. And he's finding some absolute blinders because they're on a roll. You know, that whole country's on a roll at the minute when it comes to like putting stuff out. And Mike's always been good at finding them things. But it gives you a taste for it. It gives you a taste for like, well, I know what's coming out here. I've seen that type of stuff before, and we do get good stuff, but we're also blind to so many like great things. I mean, there's another one we'll talk about it another time, but there's a film called The War of the Arrows, and I believe that's Korean.
I don't know that one. Don't know that one.
Right. Well, I'll do this one last one because I ain't got it here.
Yeah.
So Mike says, watch War of the Arrows. I said, Mike, I don't even know where to look to find the thing, right? And he says, oh well, next time you're down, we'll put it on. So we watched it here. Flipping heck, brilliant, right? Set in ancient Korea, I think. A brother and and sister. Their dad's some kind of diplomat or something, and he gets murdered. And something dark's happening in the country, and the girl grows up to be something like a diplomat, like a dad, and the lad grows up and just hangs out in the forest, firing arrows at trees, right? And so the film starts with like Mike's telling me like, just give it a minute and you'll get a taste for what we're in for, you know. And so you get this opening scene, and this fella's just whanging these arrows at this target on the tree, and he's not hit the target once. He's like, oh, and he looks like he's drunk, and he's like, oh, and he's back one like that. And he's obviously rubbish, right? And the sister turns up and she's all like dead clean and looks totally different to him, and she's got the bodyguards with her, and she's saying, you need to sort yourself out, for God's sake, you know, carry on dad's good name and all this. We've got a job to do to make this country great and all that kind of stuff. It's set in the middle of a war of some kind.
Yeah.
And so she comes over and she says, for God's sake, you know, takes the thing off him and goes bang like that. It's the target right in the center, just to show him up like that. So he's got his head down like this, and she says, you need to sort your life out, you know, give yourself a direction. Anyway, so she turns around and walks off, and he's like, so he pulls another arrow out like that, goes boom like that. And this time we follow the arrow, and it goes around the tree, and it's a target on the tree behind it. And I'm like, yes. Oh, we're off. This is brilliant. Right. So then it morphs into a story about she gets captured, and she gets taken over this particular river. And if you go over the river, culture says you can never come back. Right. If you go over the river willingly, you can never come back. And everyone says to this fellow, like, what do you think? What are you doing? Like, he says, I'm going getting her back. And they're like, well, you can't come back if you do. He says, puts the arrows in like that, bang, he's off. It's just brilliant. It morphs from like kidnap adventure to like warfare to first blood. It just everything. And you're like, how I would never have heard of this film, never, unless somebody had recommended it. And so it's made me, things like that make me keep my eyes out on the sites for like stuff that's doing film festivals, stuff that's coming in from other countries, because for every twisters you get here, there's another thing being made in another country that will be as entertaining, and you just got to keep your eyes out
100%.
for it, you know? So see if you can sniff out War of the Arrows, because it's a banger. That last half hour, I'd love to spoil why that last half hour is brilliant, but I'm not going to. It's great.
I will check it out. I will find it.
Yeah. Right, so that's us having a sniff around some recommendations. I think we're going to do that a bit more now, aren't we?
Most definitely, mate. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's, I'm sat on massive stockpiles of obscure films that I love, so it's nice just to put something in someone's direction and go check this piece of biz out. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
it is good, and like I say, it's go on.
Well, I was going to say, and that's what comments are for on these things as well. If someone's got a
Exactly.
recommendation, something that sounds a bit like what we've been banging on about. If you think of a nice one-off sci-fi that oozes quality, then chuck it in the comments, and because I want to watch that.
Most definitely. That's what them comments are for. I mean, recently the comments have been going crazy on this channel, which is fantastic. I mean, so much so I've just not had a chance to answer everybody back. I've just been dropping thumbs and hearts and stuff because there's been that much. But
you should have an automated bot do it for you. Saying, "Oh, great, mate, cheers." Just let it post. Yeah, I've seen that one, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, nice, thanks. But again, big thanks for everybody that's tuning into these videos and leaving comments and leaving likes and subscribing and doing all the rest. Like I said, the channel's doing really healthy at the moment. It's doing really well, so I'm chuffed about that. You know what I mean? It's in a really good place.
Well, it's nice to know there's like-minded fools out there who are into the same thing. Basically.
Exactly. So until the next one, everybody, please keep it cult.
Do that.